I don't really know what to make of this one. Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. I have not read any of Kurt Vonnegut before, but I know someone that I really respect, and they love Kurt Vonnegut. As far as I know, I think this is their favorite book of all time. So I'm like, I have to read it. So I read it. And yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed it. It was, I don't know if funny is the word. It's like a satire, right? It's very um it's just poking fun at a lot of things, but I think it might be too smart for me. I think I'll have to read some things about it before I fully understand the book. It was very short. I read it in like a day, literally. I think one day. Um, yeah, it's so strange, but it's funny, and it's like it's got all these poems in there that are just like really silly rhyming couplets that I I don't know, they're just silly. The whole book's kind of silly, but like good in a again. I maybe I should have. I literally just finished reading it, and like I said, I like sat down and read it in like two or three sittings over the space of a day. So maybe I should have waited a bit for it to percolate. But anyways, I wanted to get my sort of fresh thoughts on it. I enjoyed it. The story of it's very strange, but it really gave me Doctor Strangelove. Is that the movie? Vibes in a way, although that's way more like parody satire. But this, yeah, I don't know. I just got that sort of vibes. Maybe because they're sort of from the same time. So this was published in 1963. It's not his first novel, but it's one of his first few. Um, um, it follows this guy who's never named, and we never find out about the angel statue. But anyways, it's sort of a sci-fi magical realism. No, not magical realism. Kind of a. Anyways, this guy who's a writer, and he wants to write a book about the day that the world ended, which to him is when Hiroshima was bombed by the Americans with the atomic bomb in 1945. And so he's trying to find out about what happened on that day. So the one of the fathers of the bomb is this fictional character, Dr. Felix Honecker, and the main character, the POV character, is reaching out to his. He's since passed, so he's reaching out to his children, specifically this little person Newt, and eventually Newt's brother Frank and sister Angela. And we find out much later on that this guy, Felix, sort of father of the bomb, created this thing called Ice Nine, which ostensibly was created because a military general came to him and it was like, Marines, we're sick of dealing with mud. We need to come up with some sort of science doohickey to get rid of all this mud that us Marines have to deal with. So he's like, I could create this sort of seed crystal of ice that whenever it touches any water, any moisture, it instantly freezes the whole thing. So that's what he does. He creates this Ice Nine thing, which of course is a horribly, terribly dangerous thing, because if it touches water, it can instantly kill a person. And if it, I don't know, fell into the sea, it would instantly freeze the entire sea and cause the end of the world. Anyway, so this guy's created this. He then is like messing around with it and experimenting with it in his kitchen, and then dies just like a normal death of old age. His children come in to find it. They know what it is because he's told them about it, and like they accidentally kill the dog with it, and then they split it into three parts, and they each keep a part of it and go their separate ways. And so Newt, the youngest, he sort of gets taken in by this Ukrainian dancer who he's supposedly in love with, and she ends up stealing the Ice Nine from him and gives it to the Soviets, so now the Soviets have it. Angela gets sort of falls in love with this man who makes it out like he's in love with her, and they get married and have kids, but he was just after the Ice Nine, so now the American government also has it. So it's kind of like it's kind of like the new a metaphor for the nuclear bomb, um, or just the nuclear arsenals that both of these superpowers now have the ability to destroy the world like that. Um, anyways, but Frank also has some of it, and Frank, through a series of bizarre coincidences, ends up on this island, San Lorenzo, which is its own sort of country with a very strange, weird history of people conquering it or taking it over, and then other people taking it over, and eventually, in 1922, this guy McCabe and this other guy Johnson land there, and they take over the island, but decide that because it's such a poor, worthless island, that the only way they can control it is to have one of them be the president, sort of a dictator, and embody evil, whereas the other one, Johnson, who becomes known as Bokonon, because of the island's dialect, they call him Bokonon, becomes sort of a religious prophet figure, and sort of creates a whole religion that it's just a bunch of lies, but he's openly saying like it's just a bunch of lies, this religion that I've created, and he's supposed to embody the good, and so the sort of the balance between those two, everyone in the island follows Bokonon's religion, but no one admits to it, because if they did, they'd be killed by the president of the island, but the president of the island also follows their religion, and it's just a whole big farce to control the populace. And yeah, like I said, it's a satire. Anyway, so Frank goes to San Lorenzo and gives the president his Einstein, and becomes general of the government there, or whatever. And so then that's sort of the background. And then we have the main character who is traveling to San Lorenzo to interview someone for his book, but he discovers that Frank Honecker's there, and then on the plane is also Angela and Newt, and there's gonna be a big family reunion, and they all have their ice. Well, I guess they don't have their ice nine on them with them, or they do. Maybe they still have. It doesn't matter. They get to the island. The president of the island immediately is like dying of cancer, and he's like, Frank, you will succeed me. So Frank's like, great. And Frank's gonna marry this beautiful woman, Mona, because Bokonon prophesied that Mona will marry the next president of the island. So Frank's gonna marry her, but Frank doesn't want to take over the responsibility because he's not a people person. And he doesn't really love Mona. He actually loves the wife of this old hobbyist back in Indianapolis, Indiana, whatever. It's bizarre. So he's like, to the main character, who I don't think name we ever get. Part of the reason the main character went there is because they saw a picture of Mona and were just like, I'm instantly in love with Mona. So Frank's like, hey, you have to be the president instead of me. And he's like, what? I can't just be the president. He's like, you have to be the president. He's like, there's one catch though. You have to marry Mona. So he's like, oh, I get to marry Mona? Okay, fine, I'll do it. So so he's getting all ready to take over the island, and he's thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a benevolent person, and I'm going to get Bokonon on board. But then he's like, no, we have to keep the sort of the dichotomy of the evil president and the good prophet in the woods or in the jungle. But anyways, this all comes to naught because the president, who's dying of cancer, takes Ice Nine and eats it, and like it freezes his body solid. And the doctor who's looking after him is a member of the SS. He was a member of the SS for 14 years and was also a physician at Auschwitz for 6 years. It's just like, okay, sure. He also dies by coming in contact with Ice Nine. So all the Honecker children scour the room clean, and they've cleaned it all up. The only thing they have left is the bodies, and they're like, we're going to have a funeral pyre after this celebration, and then we'll get rid of it. Unfortunately, during this celebration the next day, they're going to have these military planes fly overhead in like formation, and one of them catches fire and crashes into the castle, which then falls into the sea. And of course, the Ice Nine inside the bodies, which is now in the sea, causes an immediate freeze over of the entire globe, which that like intense cold creates wacky weather patterns and tornadoes that just scour the earth clean and fling this ice nine everywhere, and it basically kills and freezes everything. But Mona and the main character manage to escape to this bunker and stay there for a few days until the weather calms down. They come out, and they sort of looking around. They see poems written everywhere that hint that Bokonon is still alive. Mona then takes some of the ice into herself and kills herself. He meets up with a few of the other characters who managed to survive, and they sort of live they described as a Swiss Family Robinson life, where this handful of like 5 people are just going to live ever after. Wow, you know what I mean. And then as it's ending, he comes across Bokonon sitting by the side of the road, and Bokonon sort of gives him sort of a final poem, which I don't know if it's nihilistic or what. See, I don't understand. I'm not smart enough. It says, if I were a younger man, I would write a history of human stupidity, and I would climb to the top of Mount McCabe and lie down on my back with my history for a pillow, and I would take from the ground some of the blue-white poison that makes statues of men, and I would make a statue of myself, lying on my back, grinning horribly, and thumbing my nose at you know who. And that's how the book ends. And yeah, like I said, so it's got this religion, this Bokononism, which is hinted at and explained throughout the whole course of the novel. And there's many different strange words, like their karas and their, I can't remember all the words, but all these words that mean different things in this religion. And I don't even know how to describe the type of religion it is. It's a religion purposely built on lies to give people a sort of a reason to live and a happiness and a sense of the hereafter. I mean, I guess that's just like a parody of all religions, maybe. But it is kind of nihilistic, but also weird and silly, and I know I'm missing the whole point of this book, and I'm curious to find it out. But yeah, Kurt Vonnegut. I would like to read his other books. One of his like his most popular book, which I can't think of the name of, Slaughterhouse-Five, I think it's called. Just to get a sense of something else of him. So yeah, this is a very funny book. Again, maybe because I read it all in one go, I wasn't in like a heightened brain space where I could understand what it was all about. But I did get the humor in it and the satire, and I did enjoy it. So anyways, that was my attempt at Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut.